perspective, if you like, into the media, or put it the other way around, why right-wing ideas dominate. The first thing I say is most journalists that I've worked with are unaware of the fact that they're right-wing. They're not class warriors in any sense. There are a few ideologues in there who know what they're doing. But most journalists, and this reflects on something that Sinead had said, they think they're fair and objective. And if you tell them that they're right-wing, that they are operating within a bias, they're confused. They don't understand it. They don't see the world like that. They think they're fair, as I say, and that fairness involves giving two sides of an argument a voice and trying to stand back from what it is that's said. Of course, that all takes place within parameters, and we understand those parameters, and that's part of analysing, having a worldview and understanding the structures of capitalism tells you what those are. Journalists, by and large, are unaware of that. They don't see that that is what they're doing, and that's a difficult nut to crack. And I partly blame media training for this. Journalism courses. You know, when I went into journalism, there was no such thing. You didn't study journalism at university. You were motivated to go out there and, you know, maybe do what William Randolph Hearst said. News is what they don't want you to know. Everything else is public relations. And that was what motivated me to go into journalism, and I think motivated a lot of people to go into journalism. Nowadays, you go through this long process of being trained to become a journalist, and I'm sure that has... Now, I don't know, I've never participated in those courses, maybe you could say something about it. I think that takes the edge off a lot of the hunger that people might have when they're motivated in the first instance to become a journalist. They're turned into professional beings, and they're taught all this thing about objectivity and so on, but they're not told what it actually means. There's no random order. Another reason why it's very, very difficult to get, I mean, put it this way, to expose the rich. In television, at least, you have to have pictures. You can't tell a story without pictures. The rich are not accessible. You can't see them. They're hidden away. The poor are everywhere. So it's very easy to go after social welfare fraud. It's not easy to go after bank fraudsters. You know, you saw the famous episode Charlie Bird going after David Drum. I mean, you get 30 seconds on television. I mean, imagine what you could do if you had all the time in the world to just go after these guys. It just can't be done. The resources are not available. So even if you have editorial freedom, you don't have the resources to do it. I worked in prime time, and this is just, again, an example that at a point in time, prime time began to lose audience share. And there's a thing in television called TAMS. It's the ratings. It's the number of people who are actually watching your program. And the number of people watching your program will determine the amount of advertising you can sell. And the advertising people in institutions like RTE are incredibly powerful. And editorial meetings in prime time, never in maybe 10 years were the TAMS mentioned. The ratings weren't mentioned. We had a fairly, free hand to do the sort of journal within parameters. I'm not saying it was ideal. As soon as the TAMS came in other words, the advertising department were telling our editorial team that we're losing audience share, and you've got to increase audience share to increase revenue. The editor told us there are stories that you want to do that you'll no longer be able to do, and there are stories that you don't want to do that you'll have to do. Now that to me is a stunning admission that editorial policy in future is going to be dictated by the advertising department, because they needed the revenue. And I think the consequences of that are obvious. For a programme like Primetime Investigates has moved away from what it was at the beginning, which was looking at the crimes of the powerful, exposing maladministration on a grand scale, to looking at things like social welfare fraud, dodgy taxis. Tabloid journalism comes to television. So I'm just throwing those, a few thoughts in no particular order.